it was decided that we will all go across the country, meet with industry, meet with the press, meet with our party leaders and members, exchange views and notes about the budget. And then I had the good fortune to be asked to come to Mumbai. And I was really thrilled because it's been so long since I've had a chance to interact with all of you. I thought this will be great. I'd like to keep it more interactive, Ashishji, so that we can hear their views also. Any questions, any suggestions, any endorsements, whatever they would like to share with us. But let me tell you the greatest thing about this visit to Mumbai this time around is the fact that I don't have to wear inners. I've enjoyed the air conditioning rather than the heating. And in some sense, it's been now many years since I moved to Delhi, but nothing like coming back home. Mumbai, of course, has not only taught me so much, not only groomed me all through my childhood, but has given me some of my finest friends, all of you. And whenever I wish to interact, whenever I wish to take ideas, you are the set of people I know I can bank on to come up with innovative solutions, innovative ideas. And therefore, first of all, I'd like to start by acknowledging the huge role that industry, business, our exporting community, our trading community, all of you have done to take the country through the COVID period, the 2 years of this very unfortunate and huge pandemic. B, for your contributions to keeping the economy going, the wheels of the economy churning away. And C, something more personal to me, helping us achieve the $400 billion export target, which Honorable Prime Minister laid out before the nation earlier this year. I remember when the Prime Minister said he would like to interact with exporters, with industry associations, with our missions all over the world. And he wanted a bottom-up approach to determining what should be India's export target. It was the first of its kind. I don't recall, and Ramu Bhaiya will probably know much more than any of us here in this room, being a doyen of the exporting community and industry, that this would probably be the first time a Prime Minister himself is asking all of us what you will export, what better you can do, what I can do to help you. He's talking to the missions in 180 countries to ask them what role they will play, how they will support industry. And from there, when the target of 400 billion evolved, I know most people were kind of feeling that ठीक है, target तो बनते हैं, बिगड़ते हैं, बनाए जाते हैं, only to be missed. But as you are all aware, Prime Minister doesn't make a target lightly, nor does he plan to miss on a target. He looked at the historical records, he looked at what we'd done in the past, and we found that 330 billion was the highest India had ever done 3 years ago. 330 billion. 400 was from last year about a 37-38% growth. 290 billion last year. Of course, with the problems of COVID, it was not a very good year, not a very good benchmark. But even from the highest 330, when we looked at the enthusiasm in the business community, in all of you, and we saw the huge and true potential of Indian exporters, 400 billion came as a natural target. And I'm really delighted to share with you that as I speak with you today, as of 31st January, we have already achieved $336 billion. 10 months of continuous $30 billion plus exports month on month from April 21 to December 21 and January 22. 10 months we have exceeded $30 billion every month, and today stand at 336 billion, which is higher than the export India had ever done in the past in a full 12-month period. All of these, and the fact that on almost every parameter, India is bouncing back, showing resilience, showing huge confidence, rapid recovery in terms of tax collections, recovery in terms of consumer demand, recovery in terms of the industrial output. All of this encouraged the government, and I must thank Prime Minister Modi, I must thank Honorable Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji for giving us a budget with no new taxes, no new revenue generation measures, very conservative estimates of revenue, both for the revised estimates of the current year and for next year, keeping in mind that COVID is not yet over, wanting to ensure that we don't overcommit ourselves. A very conservative next year projection has been taken. But despite all of that, no department has been let down for what it needs to spend as the country recovers. We have ensured adequate provision for almost every area of activity. New schemes have been introduced. For example, the interest equalization has been approved again for 5 years. We've had the new leather development scheme which has been approved, some of which relate directly to us. For the food ministry, continuing the huge amount of funds that have been expended on MSP procurement to support the good work that our farmers are doing. We've got a record allocation for the MSP operations and food procurement to ensure India continues to have food security. Textile sector, we are looking at significant ramping up of infrastructure through 7 PM Mitra Parks, which will be decided on a challenge mode among states. So in each of the areas, sufficient funding has been provided so that economic growth continues to be upward of 8% in the next year, and we can hopefully take the country back on the growth agenda and look at least a couple of decades of growth so that prosperity can go through the length and breadth of the country to every single individual in our great country. And look at the way the budget was articulated and formulated. The entire focus has been on a demand stimulus. I heard some of the experts talk about this being more a supply side budget, and I, for the life of me, could not understand what is the logic of such a comment. This is the biggest demand stimulus that the government could have given, that we have not only increased the central government's expenditure on capex by 35%, taking it upward of 7.5 lakh crores. There's a 1 lakh crore going to be given to the states as an interest-free 50-year bond to support their share of funding of infrastructure projects, and collectively between the center and states, we are looking at a 10.5 lakh crore of capex coming into the system, that is public spending of 10.5 lakh crores. All of us in industry and business recognize that every rupee spent on infrastructure, given the multiplier impact it has on the economy, steel industry, cement industry, capital goods industry, labor getting work, which obviously translates into consumption, all of this is expected to generate 3 to 4 times the economic activity on whatever capex is being spent. This obviously leads to a greater demand for goods and services, apart from the fact that it creates huge amount of opportunities for jobs and work, gives new young boys and girls who are keen on starting up new ventures, new innovations, an opportunity to come up with new ideas and engage with those ideas as the country develops much needed infrastructure to prepare ourselves for the future. And on the back of this huge demand, logically, the private sector sees in it opportunities which will encourage them to come into the capex cycle, into the investment cycle. And ladies and gentlemen, look at the import numbers. Import numbers also are rising, which is the first sign that we in industry always look for, to see whether demand has come back, demand is sustainable, what are the kind of goods that are being imported, and where are the opportunities for Indian industry to invest. And I think both the import numbers and the huge thrust on capex that is proposed in this budget from the public sector, from the government, collectively provides huge opportunity for all of us in business to invest, to look at expanding capacities, to look at new businesses. The huge international demand for Indian goods and services also opens up opportunities to engage with scale. The idea behind our major thrust to become an export-led economy is that India should now look at really expanding its scale of operations, look at improving its quality of products. And this year or year and a half, 2 years of COVID period has truly given us a sense of the direction in which this country needs to be taken. The production-linked incentive schemes in almost 14 sectors at an outlay of 1,97,000 crores will certainly encourage investments in those focus areas to create global champions, to create companies or industry at scale so we can compete with the best in the world. We can bring the best of technologies into play in these sectors. The 76,000 crore rupee semiconductor industry and its associated ecosystem investment that the government is proposing, and 76,000 crores as a subsidy, is probably the largest ever industrial subsidy given to any sector ever in the history of India. And it's not only, of course, there will be some large units coming out which will do the foundry work or the actual chip or semiconductor large factories, but on the back end, there's huge opportunity for fabrication units, for design units. It's a whole huge ecosystem that the semiconductor industry offers. And that's the kind of opportunities that I think our young boys and girls will pick up and take forward. It'll give a huge impetus to innovation. It'll give a huge impetus to R&D. And to my mind, the fact that India today produces the second highest number of STEM graduates every year actually strengthens our capabilities to be looking at becoming not only the startup capital of the world, but also the R&D and innovation capital of the world. The government is extremely committed to a sustained and resilient recovery, to look at a green recovery, and you're well aware that having taken the onus of becoming a net zero country by 2070, we have opened up huge opportunities for investments in green energy, in renewable or clean energy, for energy efficiency, for improving all our business processes to make them more sustainable. ESG has become, I think, current flavor. More and more corporates, big and small, are focusing on our responsibilities towards sustainability. And therefore, that's a huge new area that has opened up for all of us in industry to look at. And that transcends industry. Look at natural farming. Look at organic farming. It gets you a premium if you're offering products made out of organic farming or even natural farming without chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides. Therefore, my sense is it's a direction-setting budget that the Honorable Finance Minister has presented before us. It gives a new way of thinking, a new direction to our country's future. It addresses concerns both of the macroeconomy and the microeconomy, taking both together when we are looking at inclusive development, so that the trickle-down effect, which has always been talked about, that growth is an essential to provide opportunities, and those opportunities will provide the ability to feed 1.35 billion Indians, to give them work, to give them work opportunity, to provide employment to our young boys and girls. And therefore, this budget is, in a way, directionally looking at a modern India, a new India, an India that is willing to engage with technology, an India that is willing to work with resilient supply chains across the world who are looking for trusted partners. And today, I can assure you that very, very large economies of the world, and many of them with whom I'm having discussions for free trade agreements or comprehensive economic partnerships, are really seeing opportunity to work with India, to partner with India, to bring India into their supply chains, because they see in India the rule of law. They see in India a transparent economy. They see in India competence. Our young boys and girls, our skilled manpower, our technological base, our very, very good, well-meaning, honest and extremely sharp business community. All of this is being recognized the world over. On the services side also, throughout the COVID period, India did not let down a single international obligation. We quickly rechecked our operations, moved to working from home, and thanks to the Digital India movement and the thrust given to take broadband to the length and breadth of the country, which was initiated several years ago, we were in a position to quickly move into our homes, but continue to provide whatever services were promised to any part of the world. And that has actually earned so much goodwill for India that despite travel, hospitality and tourism having taken a setback during COVID, you'll be happy to know that this year our services export also will cross about $240 billion, the highest ever in India's history. And the world wants to expand their engagement with India on the services side, which has actually encouraged me to propose that it's now going to be a race to the top, a race between merchandise export and service export. Services have grown very, very rapidly in the last 22 years. They continue to grow at a scorching pace and are at about 240, 250 billion this year. Merchandise for the first time has shown such a huge jump. We'll be at about 400 billion. Now from 240 to a trillion and 400 to a trillion. That's the race to the top that I want to offer to all of you. Let's go for it. It's only when you dream big that you achieve superlative results, you achieve extraordinary performance. The world is not for the meek. The world is for bold people. Challenges will come and go, but it's for all of us to decide whether we are the ones who are going to take this challenge, who are going to succeed in these challenges, and taking these challenges forward with inclusive growth, with a more prosperous future for every citizen of this country, cannot be the responsibility of Prime Minister Modi alone. It will have to be the collective responsibility of all of us working together to fulfill our duties to our country, all of us working together to bring prosperity to every single child born in this country, every single citizen of this country, all of us working with a new spirit of enthusiasm, with the confidence of a powerful nation, with the spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat in front of us, a strong India, a self-reliant India, an India that works with the rest of the world from a position of strength, that engages with the world as an equal with the spirit of reciprocity. And I have no doubt in my mind that collectively, with the wisdom and the efforts of all of us together, the business community, our MSME sector, our traders, our technical manpower and expertise, our technology industries, our service sector, our farmers, our young startups, when all of us put our combined efforts behind this new India that we are all working for, and take the next 25 years, the Amrit Kal, as Prime Minister Modi calls it, as we progress from 75 years of independence, which we are celebrating today as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, to 100 years, the century year in 2047. We are looking at a prosperous India. We are looking at a developed India. We are looking at an India with its rightful place in the Comity of Nations. Let's all of us work for that India. Let's all of us leave behind in the footprints of sand. Let's all of us leave behind for our children, for our next generation, a strong and prosperous India. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Best wishes.
Thank you for sharing your valuable thoughts and views with all of us this morning. And as the Honorable Minister himself suggested, he would like to make this more interactive. Let us have an open house. So what we will do now is we have representatives of BSE with microphones. Kindly raise your hands, all those who want to ask questions. They will come to you. Wait till that time. Identify yourself, the name of your organization, and ask the question in short, because we want to give a chance to maximum people who are here. So yes, let us begin. Can you raise your hands? Sir, Ketan ji wahan par.
Good afternoon, sir. It is always a pleasure for me to hear you, whether in Delhi or in Bombay. Of course, Bombay is a place where we all enjoy more. Sir, as you know, I represent Reliance Industries. I am also on the newly constituted board of Alok Industries Limited. Sir, it's a very good budget, watershed budget, which has been presented this year. It will infuse demand, but at the same time, it has also taken care of supply chain, which is also very important, because both goes hand in hand, the demand and the supply. And some of the time it is seen, as Dhirubhai used to say, that you dream big, because many times the supply creates demand. So it's a very good this thing. I think you mentioned about somebody making a remark that it is a supply chain manage budget which will manage supply chain more effectively. But I think it also creates the demand and the supply both. But what is more important, sir, is to reach that supply in time and a place where the demand is. Today there is demand of something at place X. Supply is available at place Y. Of course, the infrastructure is being created for that. But for that purpose, there are certain SEZs which are located at various parts of the country, and there is a good initiative taken this year in re-looking at the SEZ policy. But a total relook is necessary to have the entire new gamut of changes in the decades-old SEZ policy, so that these places which are located in the various parts of the countries, on the ports, near the ports, can make available the supplies where the demand is. Secondly, sir, there is a need for tweaking our Indian cabotage law of shipping. There are many shipping lines which are coming from abroad, dropping the cargo here, and suppose they are passing through Malacca Strait and going towards east, they should be allowed to take the cargo from Kandla to Haldia. Today they say only Indian ships are allowed to carry the domestic cargo. But if those foreign ships, which are anyway have emptied the cargo here and are passing through the from Kandla to Haldia, should be allowed by the DG shipping by tweaking the cabotage. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Very inspired by your speech. My name is Arun Hardikar, and I want to make two quick suggestions. Electroarchaea in Europe are making for the last 3 years.
If you don't mind, if you can hold the mic like this, whoever is speaking, then it will come clear.
Thank you. So I was just making the point that for removal of CO2 emissions, 3 countries, Denmark and Germany and Austria, are running these plants. We need to put these everywhere wherever there is a thermal power plant using coal and in the steel plants. That is number 1. The second point is that for 60 years, India has got 189 million metric tons of nickel in India. As of today, there is no policy, there is no mining regulation to permit this. And I have talked to the biggest level of people. Nickel in Odisha. Nickel, 189 million metric tons is available in Odisha for the last 50 years. Some of the government publications give the same figure for the last 5 years in their annual reports. The Steel Ministry report doesn't refer to nickel at all. And in the new Tesla cars, for providing the nickel sulfide fuel, Canadian mines are being opened up where the nickel content had gone down from 20 to 5%. We've interacted with the Consul General Canada on this subject. I've given about 20 notes there, and there is no action yet. Nickel mining. My last point is that MSMEs can be given X, Y, Z, M, N, O benefits. Unless the 35 crore plus or $5 million plus MSMEs in India acquire new technology, whether from CSRI, DRDO or CFTRI, and modernize, there is not much marketing notice from these organizations. So this should be driven down each Export Promotion Council to the award winners. And then there are 150,000 fastest growing companies, MSMEs overseas. 2 of your predecessors were given the annual reports of these. Inc. magazine of USA gives 5,000 awards. Annually for 35 years, Microsoft, Oracle were all these companies. And Inc. EU companies are available 5,000 per year. I can give you a list of the whole set of organizations. Unless 5 lakh MSMEs are allowed to grow technologically, no amount of XYZ benefits will ever gain India forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Shri Piyush Goyal. I am Siddharth Sadani. I represent Anand Rathi Shares and Stockbrokers. The insightful session which you have given has given an eye-opener. But one thing, a macro question which I have, which everybody is enlarging, looking forward, is we are talking about 5 trillion economy as a country, and everybody is enthusiastic about that. What's the timeline which we are looking after this, and when can we achieve this? And everybody collectively working on it, but we just want a guideline, how can we go about it? That's it. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Sudarshan Jain representing Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, sir. Right at the outset, I would like to thank you. Ashish ji was saying that food supply was maintained, but I like to say that...
Can you just hold it like this? See, if this is straight like this.
Okay, okay. Can you hear me now, sir?
That's right.
So I'd like to thank the government first that we have been able to supply medicines around the world. And as Honorable Prime Minister always keep on saying that pharma industry is not only a asset to India but to the world. Like every third tablet in US is sold from India, every fourth tablet in Europe is sold from India. And it is because of the government and the industry collaboration we have been able to do it. So thank you very much, sir. In addition to food supplies, we should always be conscious of the fact that we are custodian of health of the world. And thanks to the government for that. Point number one. Point number two, sir, thank you very much for the very inspiring budget, I will say. Long-term investment in capital, long-term policy consistency, and the vision of India, not only manufacturing hub of the world, but innovation hub of the world, as you rightly said in your remarks. Also, great direction on digital, also on research and development, also industry academic collaboration, which has been highlighted in the budget and very, very important for the country going forward. We will like to see, sir, both in terms of exports, pharma industry can play a very important role. As you rightly said, 45 billion, we'd like to be 130 billion by the end of the decade, 400 billion by 2047. And two areas which are very important, export thrust, we have been saying to you, roadmap, which becomes very, very important, and R&D support, which your ministry can provide important support to us. Already pre-draft policy has come of R&D. If support is granted to it, it can be very, very important. And I've got my colleague, friend Ajit Singh, he will like to highlight one more point. Thank you very much once again, sir, and great support of the industry.
So rather than springing statistics at you and asking you to solve our problems here, I fervently appeal that you give a few of us from the pharma industry, different sectors, a little bit of your time in New Delhi to come and explain to you some of the great opportunities we have, as Sudarshan ji just said. Secondly is the great need for specific help in research. We cannot keep inventing new solutions for the viruses of the world without some help. You're not directly in charge of this ministry, but your influence is great, and we request you to listen to our points and help us with your colleagues. The other thing is a great emerging threat from China. China wants to be where India is now in the pharma industry. China says, we take all the trouble of making the bulk drugs with all its problems and investment. China buys these bulk drugs from us, converts them into formulations, and is taking over the world. Is taking over the world in a market that belongs to China. Sir, they are taking massive steps to replace us. I request you for a little bit of your time in New Delhi, and we'll fly down and meet you and explain this to you in detail. But you're the sort of person, the private sector minded person, a savvy person with business. You will understand what we say, and you have the means of communicating this to other members of the government.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Kasha Sai from Mallur Siddeshwara Spinning Mills from Salem, Tamil. And PM has a wonderful, in 100 years of freedom, what we're going to achieve. As you said, inclusive growth. On the start of it, instead of quoting in dollars, when we going to quote in rupees, sir, why we have to refer in dollars? Why don't we quoted in Indian rupees. My second question is, how about, is there any plans or industry-specific banks? So where every sector has a different kind of margin lines. So rather than having a single banking policy and having an industry-based banking policy, which will be a win-win situation for the business and for the sector as well. And another dream of mine, like India has been a superpower by empowering each and every one. Likewise, when are we going to come up with our Sanatana Dharma based kind of a ecosystem where the world starts looking at us, sir? Thank you. Thanks for the time, sir.
Namaskar, sir. First of all, thanks to Prime Minister and the entire team, including yourself and Finance Minister and all, for historic budget, which whole world is appreciating. And the most heartening in that budget, as far as if I have to say, is Atmanirbhar Bharat on the defense side. We still remember when Mr. Manohar Parrikar has taken the first meeting of industry when he became the defense minister. In the first meeting, he says that I checked with my purchase department what kind of procurements are taking place in the defense. So the reply was that, sir, 80 to 85% is imports and 15 to 20 is only domestic. Then I asked, how come so less? We don't have such kind of capabilities and all that. The reply given by that time people that no, sir, defense is a confidential area. We have to maintain the confidentiality. These white people are more trustworthy and all that. And on that day, Mr. Parrikar said that I am going to reverse this thing 2080 to 80-20 to 2080. And in this budget, it is going to be 68% defense items from the, so it is really heartening. Coming back to my question is, we all are talking about the green energy, and I belong to the steel sector, sir. I am from Welspun and I am part of CI and FICCI. So we know that our national steel policy is talking about 300 million ton, and which is need of the otherwise economy. There is going to be a big threat because steel and cement, these are the core sectors. So one side we want to reach to 300 million ton, and the entire world is now talking about hydrogen or green steel making, and all kind of confusions are taking place. So we really don't know in this kind of confusing era how to increase the steel capacity, because unless that renewable energy is made available, coal is a big culprit. So in this kind of scenario, our submission is that whatever that scrapping policy is announced by the government, which is going to be implemented from the April onwards, it has to be implemented in an aggressive manner. Otherwise, we have to go back to the imports of steel, which certainly country does not like. So this raw material has become very crucial for the growth of the steel sector. So this scrapping policy needs to be accelerated by providing all kind of incentives which can be given. Thank you very much.
Sir, my name is Ajay Kadakia. I am a immediate past chairman of Chemexil. Sir, Chemexil takes care of organic, inorganic, agro and other things. And as you know that yes, this year we are doing good. We have done more than 45% growth. I have only two requests. First, I would like to congratulate our finance minister for considering and giving us a reduction on methanol and acetic acid. The custom duty has been reduced. These are very two important chemicals which are used largely in our exports. Secondly, as far as chemicals are concerned, the PLI scheme has not been introduced, and you know that chemical industry has a tremendous scope for the growth, and India is, as in case of pharma, India is competing directly against China for all these organic and inorganic chemicals. Sir, I would like to draw your attention to one more point regarding inter-subdivision. Sir, as you remember that in past also I have represented that the merchant exporter should be considered and should be given more HS code for an inter-subdivision. Now that you have included merchant exporter as an MSME, they are also an MSME, so why not they are also considered in an inter-subdivision? And sir, the last point is on road tax. Sir, chapter 28 and 29 has been missed in last budget because of budget constraint. We are also paying VAT on electricity, we are paying GST on diesel and all transport expenses, but still we at chapter 28 and 29 has been left alone without considering for road tax. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Atul Ganatra.
Sorry. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Ajesh Mehta. I represent the gem and jewelry industry. Thank you very much, sir, for the fantastic budget and very favorable for our industry, especially the import duty on polished diamond, which was reduced from 7.5% to 5%, clarification on sewn diamonds, which comes here for job work, and the e-commerce policy and the COVID loan extension. As you know, sir, last year from $25 billion export of GJ sector to $42 billion target, which we have proposed here last year. Raw material, that is rough diamonds, which is the utmost important for our sector. So as of now, the foreign mining companies bring in raw materials, that is rough diamonds, for auctions and tenders for viewing at the special notified zones, which was built in 2016. And in last 5 years, we've imported $2 billion of raw materials, rough diamonds, and has gone back to the place where it was come from. So the reason here it is they cannot make a sale on these diamonds, which is put on auction here, because they are treated as permanent entities, and there is a 40% tax on income tax on those entities, because they are foreign internationals. So they take back the goods, and we do online auctions, and then we re-import it in our companies from overseas. So we would request if there is a presumptive tax of 0.25% or 0.12%, which is equivalent to what is there in Antwerp or Dubai or Hong Kong, or which are the centers, which can make it a level playing field for our sector, and which is, of course, raw material is, I'm again repeating, that is very important for us. And another issue connected to this, there is a 2% equalization levy on these diamonds, because it is bid online from India. So these become incompetent compared to the other sectors. So 2% is very high number on rough diamonds. So if that can be waived off, because it's a raw material which is exported, 95% of polished diamonds are exported when they are cut and butter polished in India. So that was a very important point connected to the rough diamonds. And again, related to GST, so there is accumulation of huge sum of GST because of this inverted tax structure. There's 0.25% of GST applicable on rough diamonds, and 0.25% of GST applicable on polished diamonds when they're sold locally. The service is in between rough and polish is attracted anywhere between 1.5% to 18%. So because of this inverted structure, there's a lot of accumulation of our GST, more than, I can give you a number, estimate of 1,000 crores accumulated in the last 3 years or 4 years. So that is one point we need to address. I know we can meet you personally and explain you the structure. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, my name is Atul Ganatra. I represent Cotton Association of India. Our association is 100-year-old, sir. At present, our industry is facing low production of cotton, sir. Last 5 years, our cotton production is standstill around 350 lakh bales, sir. Our consumption was around 320 lakh bales, but since new spindle age are coming, the consumption has gone up to 345 lakh bales, sir. So our request to you is, it is a high time, sir, that we have to change the seed, because our seed which was introduced in 2003, BT seed, that time our production was 100 lakh bales, sir. But due to new introduction of the seed, production has gone up to 350, 400 lakh bales. But it has started reducing now. So our request is, if the government will allow to scrap the policy of the seed selling, now there is a fixed price for the seed. It is around 1100 for the packet of 450 rupees. So seed companies cannot give better quality of the seed. Sir, if this price will be, fixed price will be removed, farmers will get a new seed, immediately we can increase the production from 350 lakh bales to 500 lakh bales, sir. Our yield is 475 kg per hectare. World yield average is 800 kg. Now Brazil, sir, is producing 1800 kg per hectare. So this is our industry is looking for a scrap of this, sir. Thank you, sir.
Shall I try to respond to some of these issues? Thank you. That was very, very interesting, and a lot of very good ideas have been brought to the table. I'll try to go in the order in which the questions were, or the suggestions were given. In terms of logistics, we all recognize that logistics is a subject that needs to be addressed, that we need to bring down in terms of cost and actually reach supply where demand is. There's no doubt about that. Therefore, if you've seen, I didn't say everything that was there in the budget because you've all heard the budget. But a lot of focus was given on Gati Shakti. Now, I don't know if you have all understood what Gati Shakti is. It's a very interesting concept, and I'll try to explain it to you a little bit to help you understand how the Prime Minister thinks 2 steps ahead. This was a concept he introduced a few years ago, but it took our whole system quite a lot of understanding and effort to really implement it on the ground. But now that we have the basic Gati Shakti National Master Plan developed as a digital tool, I tell you the potential of Gati Shakti, the Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti National Master Plan, is huge. I'll explain what Gati Shakti is. There is an organization called BSE in Ahmedabad, in Gujarat, that was started by Prime Minister 15 years ago when he was the Chief Minister. What BSE has done is, it has mapped all the available data, whether of infrastructure, whether of industry, whether of ports, airports, highways, roads, storage warehouses, testing facilities, all sorts of data has been mapped on different maps. So there will be one map which has all the ports of the country. There's a map which has all the forest land in the country. There's a map which has all the wildlife sanctuaries in the country. Like that, about 360 plus maps have been developed showing India's in detail, all the details of what is where in India. Now when we want to plan, let's say, a railway line, in the past that planning was done in our office. We would draw the alignment, plan for it, start land acquisition, and then somewhere gets stuck because a wildlife sanctuary came in, or a forest came in, or a huge river is there, the bridge itself becomes a 2 kilometer or 1.5 kilometer bridge, which delays the whole project. And traditionally all our projects are delayed. Very often projects are disconnected with demand. What is the point which was raised in the first question? Now I know where all the textile industry is all over the country. So wherever textile is, I know that we need to plan common effluent treatment plants there. We need to plan testing laboratories there. We need to see that does cotton get produced in Gujarat, travels to Punjab for spinning, then travels to Bangalore for garmenting, and then to the port for export. Look at the huge cost we have added on. Now, and all these layers of 350 maps, they talk to each other through APIs. They are interconnected. So if a railway line, to take that example further, is planned, we will run that through the PM Gati Shakti app. And since all the layers of data are talking to each other, the proposed alignment will hit possibly a forest. So you know that there's a forest coming there. Why not take another alignment, skirt the forest, so that land acquisition or approvals don't be a problem and don't delay the project. Suppose a wildlife sanctuary comes in and a railway line goes through that. You'll only land up killing elephants or rhinos. Instead of that, you can realign it in such a way. Or if there's a huge river, realign it a little bit to cross where the river is less wide. Or if there's a mountain range, you can see from the data which is the right point at which the tunneling should be taken up, and realign your road or your railway line to suit the mountain's tunneling requirement. Now, if all of India's industry, all of India's infrastructure and all this data, once it's available on this geospatial maps, just imagine how we can be more efficient in implementing projects. That's the whole reason why in this budget you saw Finance Minister focusing a lot on PM Gati Shakti. And I remember when we were to launch it, we were looking at the right day on which to launch it. This has been prepared by the Industry Ministry. And we put in a lot of effort because the concept itself is so new in India that for officers first to understand, forget officers, for the minister to understand, explain to the officers, and then go down the level to get that data all over the country, get states on board. It's a humongous task. But I promise you that now we are using it for government projects, then we are taking it to the states. Finally, we'll offer it to the private sector to use also. So your plant location can be very well designed through Gati Shakti to see where your raw materials are, where the infrastructure you need will be available, where proper testing facilities are. If you want to export, where the nearest port or airport is, what is the road, rail linkages available. You can actually see every dimension of your requirement through PM Gati Shakti and plan intelligently your future investments both in infrastructure or industry. So you will know where the colleges and talent is available and maybe plan your unit wherever the talent is. Now these semiconductor investments you want to bring in. This will help us to know which is the best location from talent perspective, water requirement that semiconductor needs, uninterrupted high quality power it needs. So all its needs will be factored in through the PM Gati Shakti to help us locate different projects or different infrastructures. So to your point, I assure you, we are very conscious that we have to take supply where the demand is. Of course, we have to also plan more intelligently where the supply is going to be initiated. So whether a good should come to Mundra Port or Kandla Port or JNPT or Hazira can also be best determined based on where the demand is. So you can lead supply to where the demand is also. So I can assure you that a lot of intelligent planning is going to be the order of the day as we go forward. We have also come up with a national single window system. I don't know if any of you has had a chance to have a look at it. If you have not, I would urge you to look at the national single window. Just Google national single window and you'll be able to see the site. We have already got, I think, 18 states, about 30 odd central ministries. A lot of departments have come on board the national single window. Hundreds of approvals are already on that. And we want to keep adding. If more of you start using it and telling us what more you want on that, we can develop that national single window. It will make life much easier, compliance much easier. And what is the concept? It's a very simple concept. I think Ramuji, with his long experience, will appreciate what we are trying to do. Many of you have children who might have applied for admission in colleges abroad. There's a common application form. Say you want to apply to US universities. There's a common application form. You can go, I think, up to 8 colleges when you are applying. And each college has an extra addendum where they can ask you college-specific questions. So Harvard may have a different essay that they want. Stanford may have some other essay. So they are allowed to add a portion of data that then only Harvard can open or only Stanford will open their part. But the common application form has the routine data so that 8 times you don't have to repeat your routine data. Your name, your address, your mobile number, your email ID, etc., etc. Now all of us, just think, and if we look at any of the larger companies, they might be having to type their company name maybe 1 lakh times in a year. Suppose that was to be typed once onto the national single window. After that, you just don't have to repeat the name, the address, director's numbers, or director's name and address, their DIN number, the PIN number, the PAN number, the Aadhaar number. How many times we must be repeating it? So there will be a common database which every department can see. And you keep updating that if there is any change. So one change in the national single window and every department of the government can access that change. Otherwise today, I would suspect if any one of us changes his address, we will not know how many places we have to write that we have changed our address. And I remember in my old days as a chartered accountant, that you may write that you have changed your address, but where that letter will go, God knows. And even 5 years later, you will get the communication to some old address, because the linkages were not there. So I'm just telling you how this government is thinking to make life and business easier for you and make life easier for the common citizen also. Digitization has been given a big focus in this budget. The idea is that how can we help all our processes in government get digitized? And through that, let you focus on your business activities rather than on paperwork. And gradually, what's the idea? Suppose there is a company, you get a license or an approval for 1 year. You are doing your work honestly, properly. Next time we can allow it for 3 years. Next time 5 or 10 years. And then it can be a permanent registration. You don't have to keep renewing your registration. Yes, your responsibility will be, if anything changes in your database, your duty it is to change that. That becomes a duty then, a responsibility. But you don't have to keep applying every year, 2 years, 3 years for the same approval again and again. We are moving in that direction. So jewelers, if there are any jewelers, we've made hallmarking. It's a lifetime registration, once only. And I don't know if you are aware, hallmarking regulation came in India 21 years ago, but implemented in 2021. And why did it get implemented? Because of the support of the industry. And the entire process has been made so seamless and so simple to operate that nobody is feeling the burden of hallmarking. Whereas customers get good quality product. If you pay for 22 carat, you know you will get 22 carat, hallmark jewelry. And that will build up trust, it will expand the business opportunities, and of course, grow the market. That's the vision that this government has, how technology will become an enabler. 75 digital districts have been announced in this budget. So we are trying more and more to make life and business easier for everybody. On SEZ, Honorable FM has announced, we are already re-looking at the whole SEZ policy. Going beyond export, we are trying to use it as an industrial park kind of policy so that, we can give plug-and-play infrastructure. We can give plug-and-play infrastructure to all the industrial parks, both central and state. And lakhs of hectares of industrial land is today available in various industrial parks and SEZs. Crores of square foot of buildings are ready for our services sector. So our idea is to unlock all that and bring it to use so that industrial development or growth can be speeded up. We'll be coming out, we'll be having consultations. We'll seek your guidance also when we are looking at making it a simple, effective, plug-and-play infrastructure policy, if you want a simple analogy for what we are trying to do. And removing the export linkage. Of course, so that they don't become unfair competition with DTA, there'll be a small equalization levy. But not what is currently, you have to pay import duty as if you are importing the goods. So we are actually importing goods through FTAs from other countries. Whereas if you want to import from an SEZ, there's a detriment of high import duty on it. So why lose Indian jobs and Indian manufacturing capability or service capability? That's the idea on which we are developing this project. Fully agree with you that shipping needs to be encouraged to become more cost effective. But I think the policy of domestic shipping being allowed here is because any case in international shipping, India hardly has a share. Let's at least keep these jobs within the country. So, looking at you, I can tell you the solution is not to allow the foreign vessels to go from Kandla to Hazira. I would appeal to you that you should come out with a solution that now foreign vessels also will stop using and Indian vessels will start serving international markets. India should be Atmanirbhar in shipping also. So I would urge some of you to consider investments in the shipping side. We are going to be, a small group is going to be working to see whether there are any disadvantages for Indian shipping flag owners, and we'll remove those disadvantages so that large Indian investments can come into Indian flag holding ships. By the way, we've recently had a mutual recognition agreement with UK, because of which a large number of our seafarers will get opportunities all over the world in working on ships. And the largest number of people who are seafarers are in Maharashtra, Goa, Uttar Pradesh. In fact, you will be surprised, Punjab has a lot of seafarers also. UP has a lot of seafarers also. So one would have traditionally thought Maharashtra, Goa being coastal states. But we have huge number of seafarers even in the interiors. So we have got the MRA with UK and will open up opportunities for our seafarers. I have noted your suggestions on CO2 emission equipment to capture the CO2. Any case, carbon capture is an area of research all over the world. I remember going to MIT, I think 5 years ago, to try and come and do a joint venture or a joint collaborative project to study how carbon capture works. But a number of Indian companies are also working to see whether hydrogen can become the new source of fuel and used also for the carbon capture. So I think this work is going on in India, and I would encourage more startups or our innovators to come up with ideas on that. I've noted your point on nickel. I'm surprised that if there are nickel deposits in Orissa, because we are a big importer of nickel. All our stainless steel and everything uses imported nickel. I'll certainly talk to Praladji, my colleague looks after mines, next week itself, and we'll have a look at where this mining possibility for nickel can be exploited. I fully endorse your point that MSMEs should look at new technology. In fact, if you've noticed, we've increased the definition of MSME pretty significantly. And now in that definition, export turnover is not counted at all. You can have an unlimited export turnover. So we are keen that you all bring technologies into MSMEs. If there's any detriment or any impediment to it, please flag it off with us. From the pharma industry, I'm fighting for you in every FTA to get you market access. But now one complaint also, not only to pharma but to everybody. Whenever I am engaging with industry, trying to get ideas, source your problems, where you don't get access, where you're not getting reciprocal business opportunity. Somehow Indian industry doesn't come up and become a demandier. You don't give me enough masala to fight with my counterparts. I want you to come and tell us your problems. I want you to come and tell us which country is creating a problem. For example, I remember tires were not allowed to be exported to Indonesia, whereas Indonesia was dumping tires in India. We took action on that. We took a reciprocal action, and we were able to stop the imports from Indonesia. So I think I would urge industry to become far more demanding and come back to us with your problems, and so that we can really fight for you. But the number of FTAs I'm working, UAE, just wait for a few more days. You're going to hear some fantastic news for the UAE FTA. We are at an advanced stage with Australia. I talk to their minister about sometimes twice a week, but certainly once a week. My last call was only yesterday. He's flying down on the 10th, and I'm going to be inviting some of the segments of industry from Mumbai also who have business interests in Australia or potential. Textile, there's a huge potential. Pharma, there's a huge potential, and I'm fighting to get zero duty access. Pharma has it, but also market access in a time-bound manner. But tell me the problems. I'm fighting with my ministers playing blind, without adequate information. I want you to give me information, what to fight for you with other countries. UK, one round went very well. March is our next round. Canadian minister has been pressing me, she wants to come here, but because of COVID it got delayed. I've just given her dates in March, so she'll be coming here and we'll look at an early harvest with Canada also. GCC now wants to do the FTA. They had walked out of our FTA discussions some 10 years ago, 2008, 14 years ago. Now they want to come back and do an FTA with it. So the world wants to work with all of you. We have to seize the initiative. And that's what I appeal to all of you to participate. For the $5 trillion economy, of course, we have very aggressive timelines. COVID has put us back by 2 years. We all know that very well. But let's shoot for it. Let's not give it up. Let's not say that, okay, because of this, 2026 should become 2028. Let's see what we can make up. And given the enthusiasm I see, my own senses will be able to make up some of the time. So 5 trillion is still possible. Let's still try to go for 2026. Why not? अगर हम सब लोग ने सामूहिक निश्चय कर लिया कि 5 ट्रिलियन हमको अभी भी करना है अगले 4 साल में, 5 साल में, तो आज भी हो सकता है. इतने अच्छे फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व्स हैं, $633 billion, one of the highest in the world, I think 4th highest in the world probably, foreign exchange reserves. 3rd highest in the world, $633 billion. And somehow I have to actually talk to my good friend Shaktikanji. This thinking, and Ramuji, you will bear me out, this thinking of calculating your foreign exchange reserves as a number of months of import, in my view is wrong. Because after all, our exports are not becoming zero. If at all there's a problem, our exports go faster than imports. Imports fall, but exports increase. So we should look at the deficit. Similarly, on services, we have a huge surplus. They're not going away anywhere. It's not as if from tomorrow service export will become zero. Right? So when you combine service and goods, our trade deficit net of both would be about $100 billion, even in this year of high imports. Our remittances will be $100 billion. So really 633 billion is a fantastic forex reserve to have. I see no reason why rupee is off and on going up and down by 30, 40, 50 paisa. Actually, it should be strengthening. Looking at the huge reserves we have, our export thrust, and the fact that we are, even though we may have a current account deficit, it's very manageable. Our FDI is at record highs. Our remittances are at record high. There's nothing really to worry in terms of our forex position. So 5 trillion will become accelerated once the rupee also strengthens. And look at the rupee. If you look back at 2013, rupee had gone up to what, 65, 67 rupees? That was after the 35 billion was taken as a high-cost FCNRB. That was a loan taken by Mr. Chidambaram. So don't mix it up. That 35 billion was like a aphrodisiac, just a temporary relief. On the strength of our forex reserves, it had gone up to 65, 67 in 2013. Today it's what, 74. 8 years later, there's only a depreciation of 11-12%. 8 years in the Modi government. So I would, and we have paid back that whole 35 billion also, by the way. Right? Our forex reserves are more than our external debt today. So we are in a sweet spot. Our economy is strong. Where we were a fragile 5 economy in 13, and where we are one of the world's darling economies, favorite economies. The world is looking up to India. That's the transformation in the country that all of you should be proud of. You have all been a part of this transformation. ROTTEP on pharma, chemicals, the Pillai committee has been reconstituted by finance. They are examining the availability of funds and what will be required. There were budgetary constraints because of which we have not yet been able to extend it to pharma, steel and chemicals. Let's see how it goes further. We'll be in touch with the finance ministry and see what can be done on that. Quoting in rupees, well, of course, I fully agree with you. It's a good point. Since we are looking at export and import, we are looking at dollars. Otherwise, I agree with you. We should respect our Indian rupee and talk in numbers in terms of rupee. So 30 lakh crore ka export is saal karenge. Or 30 lakh crore ka export is about 7 lakh crore more than the highest ever. 23 lakh aaj tak highest hua hai. अब हम 30 लाख करोड़ इस साल करेंगे और ये मैं समझता हूं आप सबके प्रयासों का परिणाम है. इंडस्ट्री स्पेसिफिक बैंक्स कुछ सेक्टर में है, जैसे पावर में है, पर बहुत ज्यादा एडवाइसेबल नहीं है, क्योंकि जब एक बैंक अलग अलग इंडस्ट्री को देता है तो उसका रिस्क मिटिगेशन भी होता है. तो मुझे लगता है कि आज की जो सिस्टम है वो बड़ी सोची समझी सिस्टम है और फाइनेंशियल इंटरमीडिएशन जितना ज्यादा डिस्पर्स होगा अलग अलग क्षेत्रों में उतना वो समृद्ध होगा, उतना वो सेफ रहेगा. तो इससे इंडस्ट्री स्पेसिफिक बैंक्स कुछ चीजों में सोचे जा सकते हैं, बट बहुत ज्यादा उसका फ्लेवर नहीं रहता है. सेंट्रल बैंक्स भी पसंद नहीं करते हैं साधारणतः. बाकी डिफेंस का आपने जिक्र किया, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. और हम चाहते हैं कि डिफेंस में भारत पूरी तरीके से आत्मनिर्भर बने। आपने सबने पढ़ा होगा, हमारा पहला बड़ा एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर ब्रह्मोस का फिलीपींस से अभी अभी हाल में ही डिफेंस मिनिस्टर ने फाइनलाइज किया है। तो वास्तव में हम सबके लिए बड़े गर्व की बात है कि अब भारत निर्यात करेगा डिफेंस प्रोडक्ट्स की। स्क्रैपेज पॉलिसी को हम टेकअप तो कर रहे हैं और एग्रेसिवली करेंगे, अच्छा पॉइंट है। पीएलआई हर क्षेत्र में तो नहीं हो सकता है, हमने एक स्केल कमेटी बनाई थी और वो भी प्राइवेट सेक्टर लेड थी। हमारे मुंबई के पवन गोयल का उसके अध्यक्ष थे। सीआईआई, फिक्की, एसोचैम सबने उसमें कंट्रीब्यूट किया, सरकार फैसिलिटेटर थी, वी डिडंट रन दैट कमेटी। और उसने बताया कि किस सेक्टर्स में हमें थोड़ा प्रोएक्टिव स्टेप्स लेने की आवश्यकता है कॉस्ट डिसएडवांटेजेस मेकअप करने के लिए और इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल का लाभ अंतरराष्ट्रीय और देश की मार्केट में लेने के लिए। तो उस कमेटी के सुझाव के ऊपर ये पीएलआई स्कीम का घोषणा की गई है। पर आगे चल के देखेंगे और नए क्षेत्र को भी चूज करने की कोशिश करेंगे। इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन मर्चेंट एक्सपोर्टर को इससे नहीं दिया जाता है और बड़ी साधारण लॉजिक है कि फिर डुप्लीकेशन होने की संभावना है कि मर्चेंट एक्सपोर्टर मैन्युफैक्चरर को पेमेंट भी ना दे, क्रेडिट पे माल खरीदे और इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन का लाभ ले। तो इसलिए लॉजिकली मर्चेंट एक्सपोर्टर को नहीं दिया जाता है, मैन्युफैक्चरर एक्सपोर्टर्स को ही वो लाभ दिया गया है। जेम एंड ज्वेलरी तो कुछ लोगों ने तो कहा दिस इज अ जेम ऑफ अ बजट एंड वी आर वर्किंग ऑन दैट $800 ऑल्सो। उसके क्या प्रोटोकॉल, एसओपी वगैरह बने तो आप ई कॉमर्स के माध्यम से $800 तक का एक्सपोर्ट कर सके। और भी आपकी जो जो समस्या है, मैंने स्वयं वित्त मंत्री जी से बजट के दिन भी उनका धन्यवाद भी किया और कहा भी कि हमको मिलके और थोड़ी चीजें करनी है। $800 की भी बात तभी मैंने वापस रिमाइंड की थी। वी आर वर्किंग, हमें जेम एंड ज्वेलरी में 100 बिलियन का कमिटमेंट जीजेईपीसी ने किया है। तो मेरे मन में तो 100 बिलियन घुसा हुआ है, ट्रिलियन में 100 बिलियन आपको करना है। हमारे किसान देखो 50 बिलियन का एक्सपोर्ट इस साल होगा एग्री और मरीन प्रोडक्ट्स का, कितना बड़ा योगदान हमारे किसान कर रहे हैं। तो अन्य अन्य क्षेत्रों का टेक्सटाइल 40 बिलियन क्रॉस करेगा पर बहुत कम है। अब मैं टेक्सटाइल मिनिस्टर बन गया हूं तो जो यहाँ टेक्सटाइल के हमारे मित्र हैं, क्या कहना चाहिए मुझे, बीवेयर, टारगेट बहुत बड़े बड़े आने वाले हैं। 200, चलो आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर नहीं, वी कैन डू इट। टेक्सटाइल देखिए ऐसा क्षेत्र है जो भारत का शान है, वर्षों वर्षों का। हाँ, द फर्स्ट सेक्टर और 4 करोड़ लोग इस पर निर्भर है। फार्मिंग के बाद नेक्स्ट है। और ये जो आप इतनी सुंदर बिल्डिंग देख रहे हो, इसका बहुत बड़ा योगदान है बीएसई का भारत के टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर की सक्सेस में। और वैसे टेक्सटाइल तो ऐसा एक क्षेत्र है जिसने बड़े बड़ों को प्रोत्साहित किया कि वो भी बड़ा सोचे, बड़ी ड्रीम्स करें। तो मैं समझता हूं कि टेक्सटाइल को तो हमने सबने मिलके और प्रोत्साहन देना है और इसको वास्तव में एज ए, मेरे मन में जो है फिगर आई टेल यू, एज एक्सपोर्ट $100 बिलियन और इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी $200 बिलियन, ये हमारा एक इमीडिएट लक्ष्य रखें अगर तो टेक्सटाइल क्षेत्र में किया जा सकता है और यूथ जॉब क्रिएशन हो सकती है। कॉटन का आपने एकदम सही फरमाया भाई साहब, आई फुल्ली एंडोर्स। पीछे मेरी तबीयत ठीक नहीं थी, जिस दिन तबीयत खराब हुई उसी दिन मेरा एग्रीकल्चर मिनिस्टर के साथ वार्तालाप होनी थी ऑन कॉटन प्रोडक्टिविटी एंड इंक्रीजिंग प्रोडक्शन। आई एम सीज्ड ऑफ द मैटर। जीएम कॉटन नहीं हम ला रहे हैं, लेकिन जो हाइब्रिड वेराइटीज है उसमें हम कैसे बढ़ा सकते हैं उसके लिए हम प्रतिबद्ध हैं। आपकी बात सही है, बहुत पोटेंशियल है प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ने का। और आपके पास भी कुछ अच्छे सुझाव हो। कोटक जी भी हैं यहाँ पे, हमारे डोयन ऑफ आवर कॉटन इंडस्ट्री। अच्छा, तो सुरेश भाई को मेरी भी नमस्ते उन तक पहुंचाना। उनको Certainly, I need your support, I need your ideas. हमको भारत की कॉटन को विश्व में लेके जाना है, बड़े रूप में लेके जाना है. तो आई एम लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू योर कोऑपरेशन ऑन दैट. सो दीज वर द पॉइंट्स सो फार. एक खुशखबरी, इंटीग्रेटेड स्टील प्लांट्स जो है, बड़े प्लांट्स, उनसे मैंने चर्चा की थी कि हमारे एक्सपोर्टर्स और हमारे एमएसएमईज के लिए कुछ स्पेशल प्राइसिंग दी जाए, क्योंकि बहुत स्टील प्राइस बढ़ गई है, तकलीफ हुई है. हमने मीटिंग्स भी की थी दिल्ली में भी उन सबके साथ. तो सभी स्टील इंडस्ट्री को भी बुलाया था, हमारे फीओ था, ईपीसी थे, एक्सपोर्टर्स थे, एमएसएमई के प्रतिनिधि थे. तो आपको मुझे बताते हुए खुशी होती है कि 1 जनवरी 2022 से एमएसएमईज और एक्सपोर्टर्स के लिए दोनों जो प्राइवेट और पब्लिक सेक्टर के बड़े प्लांट्स है, स्टील प्लांट्स, उन्होंने 2500 से 3000 अलग अलग कैटेगरीज में डिस्काउंट स्टील प्राइस के ऊपर एग्री किया है देने के लिए. क्वार्टरली उसका सेटलमेंट होगा, तो जो भी लोग एक्चुअल यूजर्स खरीदेंगे, एमएसएमई और एक्सपोर्टर्स, उसका वो लोग 2500 से 3000 रुपए का डिस्काउंट रिफंड के रूप में हर क्वार्टर में एमएसएमई और एक्सपोर्टर्स को देंगे. ये 1 जनवरी से लागू करने का निर्णय लिया गया. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
हमारा सौभाग्य है आप यहाँ पधारे और सभी को संबोधित करते हुए अपने बहुमूल्य विचारों की सौगात हमें दी. हम बहुत बहुत ऋणी हैं आपके और हमेशा शुक्रगुजार रहेंगे. It was indeed an insightful session and I'm sure you all will agree with me. It was truly an honor, Piyush ji, to have interacted with you, and I thank you on behalf of each and everyone present here. Thank you once again for making it here. It was a privilege to listen to you. Yes.
Thank you to BSE, Ashish Chauhan, and to all of you for joining me today. I go to KC College just now, where I'll give a more political perspective of the budget. If any of you is interested on the politics and the impact this will have on the common man, you're most welcome to join me at KC College. Thank you.
Yes. On that note, we conclude the function. Kindly proceed for tea, coffee, refreshments that have been arranged in the adjoining banquet hall. My left, your right. Have a great day ahead. Stay safe, stay well, stay healthy. देवी और सज्जनों, इसी के साथ इस आयोजन का समापन होता है. जलपान का प्रबंध बैंक्वेट हॉल में किया गया है. मैं मानसी आप सभी से विदा लेती हूँ. थैंक यू फॉर बीइंग अ वंडरफुल ऑडियंस. स्वस्थ रहें, सुरक्षित रहें.